settings for image preview are available. Because we are going to open a PDF file, Caldera will use the app engine, which is recognizable for working with PDF files. Here, the preview image will be loaded with 72 dpi resolution, which is enough for just preview while optimizing panel performances. For very large files, it could be better to use the size factor instead of Indeed, this will decrease much more the size of the incoming file and will prevent from the software slowness. Simply click Open to load the file. As you can see here,
Out of
the
Caldera.
file has been loaded into the default tab from the image bar, simply because this is the only available tab for now. We're going to see how to create new image bar tabs later on. Let's reopen the file using a different preview setting. Here, I'm decreasing the preview quality by switching to 10 dpi resolution. Now, when opening and comparing both files, the preview quality is obviously different. When working with PDF files, it is crucial to consider that the source file is not loaded in the RIP software, only a preview, meaning that if the source file is moved or deleted, it won't be possible for the software to process it because the original file would be missing. When working with raster files like TIFF files, the behavior is different. Indeed, the software will always open the file at its full resolution. No preview is created, as you can see here. Let's find out how to do the using hot folders. Working with hot folders will bring you many advantages. It is time saving because no one needs to go in File Manager module to retrieve files to print. Hot folder can efficiently process files coming from remote servers. And finally, we'll see at the end of this training that hot folders can be named to print configuration in order to improve automation and decrease human mistakes. First, let's create a new image tab where next incoming files must be loaded. To do so, just right-click on one existing tab, then select New tab. Here, I'm going to name it Banners. The next step will be to create the hot folder itself. To create a hot folder, we go to the application bar and we click on Special tab. Then we select Hot folders. Let's click on New to create a new one from scratch. Let's name it Banner Hot folder. For now, I'm going to ignore this option. I will get back to it later. Tab is actually the image tab where files will be loaded. So I'm going to choose my banner tab I just created. This option allows you to delete the files from the hot folder once they are printed. The directory is the hot folder itself. Here I'm going to create it locally in the public folder. This way, it will be much easier for the pre-press department or any other people from the same local network to drop some files in it. You can name this folder whatever you like. You can click OK there to validate it. You can also filter the type of file you want to work with. In this example, only PDF file will be loaded on the image bar. The other type of file will be just ignored by the hot folder. This value is set in seconds and it will depend on the local network quality. If the files are not properly loaded in the image bar, maybe the timeout is too short, so do not hesitate to increase it. In the current example, I don't need a higher value since I will drop the files locally. If for some reason you have to change some format settings such as the preview quality, you can do it by clicking this button. Let's click OK to validate the hot folder settings. Now let's check if the hot folder works as expected. To do so, I'm going to drop some files in the corresponding directory. As you can see here, Caldera RIP has properly detected incoming files and they are successfully loaded in the according image tab. It is often useful to know what is inside the files you would like to print. Caldera RIP offers a tool called Info that will sum up everything you need to know about incoming files like embedded ICC profile and spot color information.
To use this tool, simply drag and drop a file in the info icon. And this will open a new window containing different tabs. In the General tab, we find information about the size of the image and its location. The resolution here is matching with the resolution of the preview parameters which was previously in the file manager. This is not the original resolution of the PDF, of course. However, this is the original size of the image in millimeters. The dimension in pixels depends on the preview resolution in dpi. And this is the size of the preview created by APPE. Here we can retrieve the path of the original PDF file. The temporary file is the preview image created by APPE from File Manager. We will see later on how to get rid of these temporary files. Indeed, holding too many images in the image bar can saturate the hard drive and the RIP software could become very slow. From the ICC tab, we can check if the incoming file came with the ICC profile. Here we notice that there is no embedded color profile attached to the current file. That's why Caldera attached a default CMYK color profile. We can change this default profile by going in the special tab from the application bar. Then simply select color configuration. We recommend you to honor all embedded ICC profiles for better color management. If the incoming file has no color profile, Caldera will push a default one depending on the color space of the image, gray, 720, RGB. Here, our default CMYK ICC profile for incoming file would be Caldera CMYK.ICC. The next tab tells us how many vectors are in the file. Spot color tab will list spot colors inside the current document. Our PDF file contains here one single Pantone color. The next tab is useful for print and cut jobs. It will list all controls that can be associated to a cut method later. In this example, we see Trimbox, which is the default frame surrounding most of PDF files. If needed, we could use the Trimbox as a cut operation later on. In this tab, you can type comments attached to the current files. And finally, the last tab will display job tickets information for advanced automation purposes. We won't use any job tickets during this Caldera Basics training. If you are looking to print a small area from an incoming file, just to print a color test for instance, it is possible to crop the file from the image bar. Let's see how to do it. From the image bar, simply double-click the image you would like to crop. This will open the image in a preview. Here I am going to zoom in order to enlarge the area I want to crop. Then I can select a rectangular frame to make a selection. Then I click the Edition menu to copy my selection in the same image tab. This will create a new image that we could print later on. As long as you want to print a file, this file must be loaded in the image bar. Therefore, it is very important to sort efficiently your jobs into image tabs. As we saw previously, it is very easy to create new tabs. Simply right-click on one existing tab, then create a new one. When loading a file from the File Manager, you can choose now the appropriate image tab. Delete files by pressing the backspace key from your keyboard. Use the Shift or Control key from your keyboard to select several images. By going in the trash can module from the application bar, we are able to restore images or delete them permanently. Of course, it only removes the image from the image bar. The original file is not removed. It's also possible to move images to another tab just by drag and dropping them on the appropriate tab. At the bottom of the image bar, you will find a search bar to find images easily. It is particularly useful if you process many files daily. But holding a lot of images in the image bar could become an issue. Indeed, the RIP could run slower and takes like forever to launch. To prevent from this, you can use Caldera. Caldera is your go-to platform when it comes to RIP software maintenance. For instance, you can easily remove images plus associated temporary files by running this script. Choose the images you would like to remove, then click Remove. Of course, the concerning images won't be printable any longer unless you already ripped them. And be careful, this action will restart the RIP software. Before printing our first job, we need to install a printer. To do so, a driver is required. After a Caldera installation, there are two ways for retrieving a cal patch, which is the printer installation file. Of course, the printer that you will install depends on the license content. You can either download this cal patch from your workspace account or from Caldera. Here, let's use Caldera. After opening Caldera, we go to the driver tab. Then we can browse for the driver we are looking for. Of course, make sure to download the driver version matching your software version. The cal patch is downloaded in the download folder whether you're working with macOS or Linux Debian. To install driver, simply double-click on the cal patch. Be careful, this will stop the Caldera RIP. This will open an installation wizard. For this driver, we can display a PDF tech note that could be very helpful if you are not familiar with the printer. If available, I definitely recommend you to open it and save it on your computer. Click the thumb up to validate the installation. When restarting the RIP software, a pop-up window will inform you that a new printer has been installed. The printer is now available in the main tab from the application bar. We can also customize its icon for better visibility by right-clicking on the printer icon. If you want to submit job to the printer, we need first to configure its connection. To do so, we will go in the Settings tab from the application bar, then we open Server Admin. Server Admin is the dedicated module for managing your driver. You will see here the list of printers currently installed. Let's select the only printer we installed so far and click Configure. From the Connection tab, we're going to establish the connection between the RIP and the printer. So to connect the RIP to the printer, you can click Auto Detect. If the printer is not auto-detected, simply untick the box to configure it manually. There are three main types of connection. Each one depends on the printer you would like to drive. This is the main type of connection for wide and large format printers such as Epson Show Color Series, HP Latex, Roland Solvent printer, etc. Basically, you just need the IP address of the printer to connect it to the RIP software. This type of connection is mainly for printers having a controller, mostly huge roll-to-roll printer or flatbed printers like Agfa, SwissQ Print, Durst, MS printers. This means that you will transfer the RIP file in a folder created locally or in the controller itself. By default, this folder is created in the public folder for more convenience. Then we have printers with a USB connection. This type of connection suits printers without network cards, mostly some Mimaki and Fujifilm printers and other smaller devices. In this example, we want to drive an Epson printer which required an LP connection. So we just type its IP address in the corresponding field. As you can see, there are plenty of other options available. I will get back to some of them later on. For now, we can quit this module. Caldera RIP will ask you then your admin password to validate the settings since you are modifying the driver. The password by default should be Caldera. And be careful, if you do such kind of modification while ripping or printing a job, this will restart the driver and will abort the processing jobs. Our driver is ready to print. It's time to create our very first layout. To start a new layout, simply drag and drop an image from the image bar to a printer icon in the application bar. This will open the driver or print module. From the main interface of the print module, we have settings related to print quality and color management. At this step, it is very important to get a working color configuration. If the resolution or the print quality are not matching together, you will see some red or purple area warning you that the print results won't be okay. For now, I don't have any ICC profile. If you don't have any ICC profile matching with your substrate, you can take a look to our generic ICC profile library available from Caldera doc. This will download a cal patch. And to install this cal patch, we will use Easy Media module, which is dedicated to printer calibration and ICC profile creation. Here, we will simply use Easy Media to import the color profile. To do so, simply select your printer from the server list, click Next, then click on Import. Depending on the type of printer you are working with, different choices are available. Here we are working with an Epson printer, so we could actually upload a profile directly from the printer itself by clicking Auto-Sync button. In this example, we want to install a profile we downloaded from Caldera doc, so we click Install Patch. Then browse for your cal patch. If there are several profiles with the same patch, you can install all at once, or select the profile you would like to install. Because our driver is still running in the background, the installation will stop it. Now, if we relaunch the driver, we can see that the new profile is available. We are now ready to print our first job in good conditions. The print module stands as a graphical interface of the printer driver. It includes the characteristics of the printer, like the print resolution and quality, the roll size, advanced color management settings, and much more. In the next example, we're going to see how to add different type of marks to our layouts and how to nest several copies within the same job. Let's choose a rock 64 inches from the loading menu. You can also synchronize with your printer to get immediately the correct format. If needed, you can create your own format by going in Server Admin. In the Printer Configuration tab, you will find a Page tab where you can create and store custom roll or page sizes. After saving the modification and restarting the driver, your custom format will be available in the print module. Let's create a new layout by clicking the Layout icon. The layout window can be split into three areas. In the left side, you will find options for image orientation. In the middle, we have a preview area that will show you the job as it will be printed within the current roll or sheet format. In the right side, we find different tabs dedicated to templates, marks, step and repeat, and much more. In today's training, we will focus on the three first tabs. Okay, let's talk about the main tab. In this example, we assume that we want to print banners, and the file must be printed at 50% of its original size. Here we can change the format. Let's keep a roll 64 inches. It is also possible to create a template based on standard or custom sizes. Now, each modification you will apply to the file will be limited to this template frame. In this example, I don't need any template, so I'm just gonna leave this option disabled. You can also change the size of the image by typing precise dimensions or a scale value. By the way, when you type something in a field, whatever the Caldera module you are working with, always type Enter to validate your input. The next section is about dual-sided printing. I'm not going to speak about these features during today's training, but I definitely recommend you to watch our dedicated YouTube video if you are are interested in. This option is for multi-pages PDF file printing. Here you can tick these options to prevent you from printing something which is not properly scaled. The automatic rotation is set to minimize the waste of substrate. If needed, you can still force vertical or horizontal orientation. And by default, the ratio is also activated in order to not distort the original image. Let's move to the next tab. In here, you will find everything that is related to marks. Crop marks allows to print basic marks around the job to ease the manual cutting process, for instance. Clicking the plus icon will allow you to reach more options such as size and margins between the marks and the image. To get a better view of the current layout, do not hesitate to zoom in using Ctrl key and left mouse button. To restore the original view, just press Alt key plus R. Bleeding is very useful for jobs that require surrounding additional pixels, such as canvas or stickers applications. Here, because we are working with rectangular documents, we can choose the canvas mode with a duplication method and 50mm bleeding. This means that Caldera RIP will mirror 50mm of pixel from inside the document and will add them outside the boundaries of the image, just like in the current example. When zooming in the image, we can see a pink area surrounding the job. This is actually the bleeding area preview. This section allows to add special marks for finishing operation with your trimmer equipment. Caldera RIP includes a bunch of preset matching with bestseller equipment such as Photoba. You can also create your own marks by clicking the edit button, depending on your own device. Add annotation to ease job tracking. You can choose from 3 levels of annotation. You can also choose to print only custom notes by typing free text in here. Doing a right click will also allow you to choose from different tags such as the name of the printer and much more. This section allows to print QR codes. Click the edit button to configure the code, and like in the previous section, choose from different tags or type any free text to include into the code. The next section is dedicated to grommet marks, which is designed for banner applications. Once again, click Edit to open the editor. In this example, I would like to print circular grommet marks with a 15mm diameter. Here, I want my mark to be in the middle of my bleed area after folding the hem. So I offset the mark from the border of the document by 25mm. Let's put 5 grommets along the X edge and 3 grommets along the Y edge. Click Apply to update the preview. To get a better contrast between the grommets and the document, we can also change the color of the grommet marks. Here, I switch the contour type to plain line, then I choose yellow as a contour color. Let's apply the changes, then quit the editor to check the results. You can print control stripe for advanced color management. You can also use this option to print the logo of your company next to your job, for instance. To do so, simply drag and drop your image from the image bar. Finally, the color bar section allows to print CMYK plus additional inks color stripes along your jobs. This is to prevent from any printheads clogging issue. It is mostly used when printing huge jobs that doesn't require all CMYK colors. Next tab is dedicated to step and repeat. As indicated by its name, step and repeat module allows to repeat the current image along a roll or a sheet format. After activating the feature, we can choose from 3 different options. We have the standard mode, then we have a textile mode, which is designed for smart textile pattern repetition, and the contour mode, made for optimizing the nesting according to complex cut shapes. In today's training, we will focus on the standard mode. You can nest several copies of the same job in one single page by using the full option. Let's nest 10 copies with 10 mm margin in between. The margin area is calculated based on the bleed area. As you can see here, all the marks from previous operation are of course also applied to other copies. And all the marks like annotation and optical code will be printed only once at the bottom of the page. If we select manual, it is also possible to control how many pages you would like to print. Here, for instance, we would print 3 pages of 5 copies. Before printing the job, let's speak about print configurations. Back to the main driver window, it is possible to set the current print configuration into a preset in order to speed up future job processing requiring the same layout. To save a preset, simply click the floppy icon, then name your current configuration. By clicking this button, you can manage all your print configurations. For instance, we could define the banner preset as our initial settings each time we open the driver. It is also possible to restore the current print configuration each time a new image is dropped in the driver. Feel free to export your presets into XML file to import them on another Caldera station. Okay, we are now ready to print a file. Here I am working with an Epson Show Color large format printer, meaning that Caldera RIP drives the printer directly through IP connection, as we saw previously from server admin. Therefore, 4 different actions are available. Each one is linked to the print button. The print action means that you will rip and print the job at the same time. By choosing this action, you can also choose to keep the ripped file after printing. The rip action will only rip the job. You will need to launch the printing process from the spooler module. The rip then print action means that Caldera RIP will first rip the job, and as soon as the ripping process is done, the job will be printed. The nest action has a totally different function. I will speak about it later on. If you want to print a file directly, I would recommend you to use the third action, which is rip then print. Indeed, the first action could lead to unwanted slowness because the rip and the printing process are done at the same time. But this will mostly depend on the quality of the local network. Here I'm going to choose rip only. To launch the ripping process, I just click print. Once the ripping or printing process starts, we open the spooler module to monitor and manage its processing. You can also open this module by going in the application bar from the settings tab. From this module, you will see the print queues per printers. As you can see here, for now, I have only one driver installed and launched, so basically only one queue. Here I can see my processing files within the blue area. There are actually 3 different areas in the spooler. The blue area contains all the processing jobs for the selected printer, whether they are ripping or printing. The green area contains all the finished jobs, whether they are ripped or printed. And finally, the red area will contain aborted jobs or jobs with an error. Here, for instance, the job has been ripped and it's now pending in the green zone for further printing. As you can see, it says 0 copies, meaning we didn't print anything yet. To print this job, we will simply click the print button. I'm not connected to any printer while I'm delivering this training, so if I click print, the job will go straight in the red area. If I was connected to the device, the job will go back in the blue area until the end of its printing process. Here, because the ripped file is kept by default in the spooler, I could reprint this file as many times as I want. It is also possible to reopen the same job in the print module. This will allow you to check the current configuration and to modify it. From the bottom left corner of the spooler module, you can see how much storage is available. It is very important to not saturate your hard drive by holding too many RIP files, otherwise the RIP software could become very slow. Depending on the resolution and the size of your job, a RIP file can be huge. Here, for instance, the current RIP file is larger than 2 GB. Using such kind of driver, the RIP file or reprint file are stored in a temporary folder located in /opt/caldera/var. To get rid of some RIP file, two actions are possible in the spooler. First one is purge action. This action will only remove the selected RIP file, meaning it is still possible to reopen the job in the print module for further printing because the job itself still remains in the queue. The second action is delete. This action will remove both file and job. As you can see, the job has disappeared from the list, meaning it's not possible to retrieve it again. In the case you have a huge amount of RIP files stored in temporary folder, I suggest you to use Caldera Doc. You will find a script called Clean Temporary Files by going in the Application tab. Simply choose from the files you want to delete, then click the Clean button. Once again, this will restart the RIP software, so make sure you're not processing a job at the same time. In the previous topics, we saw how to nest several copies of the same file within the same job. But still, we don't know how to nest different files within the same job. To do so, two options are available in Caldera RIP software. You can either choose Compose module or Nest-O-Matic feature. Let's start first with Compose. You will find the Compose module in the application bar in the Main tab. Simply double-click the icon to open the application. Compose module is quite straightforward. In the next example, we will simply focus on page format and nesting options. At first, we need to enter a page format according to our printer. Let's keep a 64 inches word. Then we can drag and drop the files we would like to nest from the image bar. If you are looking for several copies from the same file, simply press the Ctrl key while dragging the file. Then release the key when dropping the file in the blank area. Caldera RIP will ask you then how many copies to place. You can do the same by selecting several images at the same time. So far, we can see that files are placed randomly and they are overlapping each other. Let's fix this by going in the nesting area. This icon means that the contour nesting is activated, very useful for print and cut applications. Here we are working with simple rectangular shape, so we don't need to activate this function. Then we can add a margin between each file. Let's put here 10 mm. This button allows different rotation steps when nesting the images. You can choose either from 90 or 180 degrees rotation steps. Here, 90 degrees will give us better optimization and will help to save more substrate. If needed, you can add crop marks around images you want by doing a selection plus a right click. Choose Properties, then choose the marks you want to print. We are now ready for nesting. To nest the files, simply click this icon. It will nest all entities while adjusting the height of the document. Here's the result. If we zoom in, we can see the crop marks. You can also activate this option in order to create independent rows to ease further manual cutting. To update the nesting, click again the Nest button. As you can see, files are now organized in rows. Before exporting this layout, I recommend you to crop the size of the document according to the nesting by clicking this button. This will allow us to add further marks from the print module if needed. Our nesting is ready to be created in the image bar. To do so, simply click Create, then New Composite Document. You can also choose the tab where you want to export the document. To print this new composite file, simply drag and drop in the printer as you would do for a regular image. In the print module, we make sure to print the document at 1:1 scale. We can also center the document in the current 64 inches word. Feel free to add all the marks if needed, but keep in mind that most of marks like crop marks and grommets will be added around the whole composite document, not to each entity inside the document. If you would like to do so, the next nesting method I'm going to talk about is way better. Let's discover now the second method for nesting. This method is called Nestomatic. In comparison with Compose, these features offer several advantages. Files are nested directly from the print module, no need to use another RIP module. This means that you'll be able to add marks in a more flexible way before nesting. You can also automate next file printing by setting your own print conditions from server admin module. Let's see how it works. To benefit from Nestomatic, simply open your driver, then select Nest from the Action scrolling menu. At this point, we are not going to rip or print anything. We will simply queue images to print inside one single pending job in the spooler. This job is called AutoNest. Once the nesting is long enough or big enough, we will launch the ripping or printing process from the spooler. Enough talking, let's do an example. Here I'm going to drag and drop several files to be nested. If needed, you can change the number of copies by going in Step and Repeat tab. As you can see, the software tells me that the copies are well submitted through Nestomatic. Of course, feel free to add marks to some images. Okay, I think we have enough images for now. Let's take a look to the spooler. In the printer queue, we can see all the files we submit separately with the according number of copies. An AutoNest job has been created as well. As you can see in the preview, it contains all nested files as one single job. To get more information about this job, we can go in the Settings tab. Here, for instance, we can check the length of the job to not create something that is too long or too short. Let's assume we are fine with this job and we want now to print it. To do so, we will just click Print. But before printing, let's click on Settings. From the main menu, you can choose the destination of the job when clicking the Print button. Here, to not waste any hard drive storage, I would recommend you to purge the job after printing. This will delete the read file while keeping the job in the spooler. Of course, if you know that you are going to reprint the AutoNest job several times, it will be better to hold the job in the queue. By going in the Nestomatic tab, you can also do last-minute changes to the current layout, like setting another margin between each images or switching the media size, for instance. Be careful, if the media size is too small and some images don't fit any longer, these images will be removed from the AutoNest file and there is no chance to retrieve them unless going back to the print module. Here we can see the preview that is updating because we set up another margin between each images. Okay, we are good with the current settings. We can push print to release the AutoNest job. At this point, if the nesting action is still activated in the print module, the next job will create a brand new AutoNest and so on. Now I'm going to show you how to set up print conditions in order to streamline your AutoNest production when printing on a roll-to-roll printer. To do so, we go to the application bar, settings, and we open server admin. Choose the printer you would like to set up print conditions, then click configure. Then we go to the Nestomatic tab. Please note that each printer has its own Nestomatic rules. Here are the default AutoNest settings for this printer. From the Parameters tab, you can choose to organize your Nestomatic jobs. Usually, if you want to save media as much as possible, I suggest you to keep the first two options enabled. The third one must be activated if you plan to cut rectangular jobs manually. This option will center the whole print on the page. In the right side, we have other interesting options. The loading will define how Caldera RIP is going to switch to another AutoNest job. Free means whatever the size of the roll you work with when sending the first job, next images you will send must fit in. If an image doesn't fit, it will be ignored and will appear in the red area of the print queue with an error message. Strict means each time you switch to another role or page size, it will create a new autonest file accordingly. If you select a specific size from the list, this size will become the maximum allowed image size, meaning if an image doesn't fit the autonest, it will be moved to the red area of the print queue with an error message. Let's keep free as loading. Action has the same function as the action button from the print module. This is actually the destination of the autonest job when clicking print button from the spooler or when print conditions are met. Let's switch to rip then print. Okay, let's speak now about print conditions. It allows to automate print starts. For instance, when printing with a roll-to-roll printers, it is very useful to set up a maximum print length. Here, for instance, let's type a maximum length of 5 meters per autonest. Doing so, the print will start before the autonest job exceeds 5 meters long. Obviously, next incoming images will then be nested within a new autonest, as long as nest is selected in the print action. From here, you can also plan for different spacing or margin between each nested files. I'm just going to switch for 20 mm margin between each file. Finally, we click Proceed to validate. Because we are modifying the driver itself, we must type the admin password in order to apply changes. If the driver is running in the background, it will be stopped, so make sure the driver is not ripping. Let's check if everything works as expected. I'm going to nest a bunch of images, then I will check what we get in the spooler. Here, we can see that an autonest job is already ripping because its size is very close to 5 meters long, which is the limit we set up earlier from the Nestomatic print conditions. And next images that didn't fit in this autonest are nested in another autonest, etc., etc. As promised, I'm going to speak about more advanced features related to automation. We saw earlier how to save print configuration from the print module. I am going to teach you how to use this print configuration as a quick print in order to speed up job submissions. It is very easy. Simply select one or several images you would like to print from the image bar and right-click on them. From the menu, click on Send To. Select then the appropriate printer, then a print configuration. Of course, if you didn't create any preset, the list will be empty. If we jump in the spooler, we can see that the files are now processed accordingly to the preset. No longer needs to go in the print module. You can also use Quick Print from the file manager while opening a file. To conclude this training, I am going to show you how to fully automate a production by linking a preset to a hot folder. In this example, I am going to edit the hot folder I created at the beginning of this training. So far, this hot folder was set up to only open files into the banner image tab. To send images to a print configuration, simply click this button. As well as in the previous example, this will open the list of printers and available presets. Select your preset, then click OK to validate hot folder modifications. If new files are dropped in this hot folder, they will be immediately processed following the print configuration you chose. This concludes this Caldera Rig Basics webinar. I hope you enjoyed it. Once again, if you have any questions in regards, please let me know from the chat module. I am now fully available to answer your questions.
Dobre, teraz máme akorát nejaké otázky, že sa tam niekto bude chcieť prispievať, takže v princípe sme hotoví. Je niečo, čo sa chce niekto opýtať, že čo nebolo, alebo Je to v podstate iba skôr na to, aby sme videli, že minimálne by sme mohli skúsiť prepnúť, že ten print, že vraj to je rýchlejšie, to tam povedal Borec.
Môže byť, ale či to je rýchlejšie. Aby som skôr urobil tie